Hello and a warm welcome to today's edition of Business Africa. I'm your host, Afolake Oyinloye. The top stories this week. Counterfeit fertilizers threaten Africa's agricultural prosperity amid rising hunger. With no end in sight, long-standing conflict plunges Sudan's economy. Unemployment and food prices are on the rise. And Nigeria's growing e-payment adoption faces network challenges, yet businesses continue to cling to digital options over cash in optimism. Amid Africa's pursuit of agricultural prosperity, a pressing challenge emerges: the need to bolster soil health while mitigating the impact of pesticide. In Kenya, recent developments such as the circulation of counterfeit fertilizers underscore the urgency of addressing these issues. Have a look.
In Africa's pursuit of agricultural prosperity, a multifaceted challenge has emerged, enhancing soil health while grappling with the impact of pesticides. Recent developments in Kenya underscore the gravity of this challenge, particularly with the emergence of counterfeit fertilizers being sold to farmers. The Kenya Bureau of Standards confirmed that fake subsidized fertilizers packaged in 25-kilogram bags were circulating on the market. Fake and defective inputs not only undermine farmer productivity, but also pose a significant threat to food security. This comes as the World Food Programme reports a sharp rise in hunger across West and Central Africa that will affect nearly 55 million people during the June to August lean season. In addition, the indiscriminate use of pesticides by small-scale farmers also raises concerns. Climate change has been blamed for the emergence of new pests, diseases and resistance to pesticides. Experts, however, say investment in the resilience of Africa's food systems and stringent regulatory measures to safeguard farmers and consumers alike will make the difference between food security and starvation.
Dr. Debisi Araba, a research fellow at the Imperial College London, renowned for his vision in food ecosystem transformation, joins us from Kenya to delve into that report. Welcome to the show. Now, to start off with, how can ideal farming practices be promoted to mitigate negative impact? What solutions and strategies do you suggest?
First is understanding the needs on that farm, and then the right type of support. So connecting them with either the technical support, the science support, but also with markets. So farmers need to have access to markets, both on the inputs and the outputs. So for the inputs, it's how farmers get access to a wide variety of products and services to help them improve their yield and productivity. But also on the output is how farmers get access to markets, because the better you connect the production system to the consumption system, the more integrated the market is, the better financing can flow through. So there will be funding. Farmers can borrow commercially because they know what they grow on their farms has a market value that gives them commercial returns. So they're not planting in hope, and certainly not borrowing in hope. So the better you can do that, the more sustainable the entire ecosystem becomes.
Now, in light of the recent fertilizer scandal in Kenya, how can African countries ensure the integrity of their agricultural input to safeguard their soil health and ensure food security?
This is an important question, and thanks for asking it. I think Kenya doesn't stand alone, and it's certainly not unique in its recent experience. In fact, I'd like to take you back just over a decade and a half to Nigeria. I think around 2011, Nigeria's through its input subsidy program, because of inefficiencies and lack of checks in that system, we had a situation in Nigeria where contractors were supplying sand, bagged sand, as we have in Kenya right now, to farmers. And in some cases, kaolin and sand being supplied to farmers. Now, when the current president of the African Development Bank, when he was minister, Aki Adesina, he introduced a program called the Growth Enhancement Scheme. And it was a government sort of public sector initiated market-driven system where the government was going to provide 50% subsidy off the first 2 bags of fertilizer and free access to improved seed. And underpinning it all was technology, an electronic wallet system where every farmer was registered. They received their subsidies via their mobile phones, so electronic wallets. So the subsidy came directly to the farmer, bypassing all middle folk. And this led to a jump from 11% efficiency of the input subsidy in 2011 to about 91% by 2013. We know that technology works, good policies work, market-driven systems work. It's not like we don't have good quality fertilizer in the market here in Kenya. So how do we connect the producers and the retailers of these products with the consumers? That's what Kenya needs to do now. And I think there are lots of rich lessons to learn from Nigeria's experience between 2011 and 2015.
Now, on a regional level, what measures should be implemented to regulate pesticide and fertilizer distribution?
Well, we already have the regional, frameworks. It's really about just giving them teeth or breathing life into them. I think, some people might say there isn't political will. There is the political will. I think what we need to do better is not make it an exclusively public sector driven system. So it's got to be public sector enabled, private sector led. We really need to bring the private sector to the fore. So how do we ensure that the regulatory systems give them the right rules to play by? And we continue our monitoring and evaluation systems to ensure that everything that we're doing in our path towards agro-driven prosperity does no harm to the environment. So it's really about just doing the things that we already have in place.
Dr. Araba, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Sudan's prolonged military conflict has devastated its economy, with GDP plunging by 40% in 2023 and key sectors paralyzed. As the conflict persists, experts warn of worsening economic hardship. Have a look.
As Sudan stares down a second straight year of war, experts warn of deepening economic woes. The Sudanese Agricultural Bank reveals a 60% reduction in cultivated areas in 2023 compared to previous years. The violence has left key sectors paralyzed, leading to a 40% drop in GDP. Exports have plummeted by approximately 60% due to the closure of Khartoum's international airport and the suspension of activity at dry ports. Meanwhile, the unemployment rate has risen from 32.1% in 2022 to a staggering 47.2% this year, according to data from the International Monetary Fund. Experts underscore the gravity of the situation.
Having firms that will have to scale down operations or just shut down completely, which will have a significant impact on employment. And then also we're going to see an increase in population in migration. If the situation has to continue or has to escalate, we're going to see more and more people having to flee from their homes and flee out of the country. And this is also part of the country's workforce that is leaving, even jeopardizing further potential economic recovery for the country.
Farmers, once the backbone of Sudan's economy, are among the hardest hit.
Running of the farm became very expensive, and the cost of fertilizers reached $32, and the crops we harvest are worth nothing now.
Without intervention, Sudan faces prolonged hardship and diminished prospects for recovery.
With a 66% surge in e-payment transactions reported by the Nigerian Interbank Settlement System in 2023, Nigeria's transition towards e-payment channels is gaining momentum despite infrastructure challenges. Here is more to that story.
Nigeria is witnessing increased adoption of electronic payment channels for transactions despite poor network system. According to Nigerian Interbank Settlement System, the value of e-payment transaction in Nigeria grew by 66% at the end of 2023, reflecting the country's increased adoption of electronic payment channels driven by cost scarcity and increased financial inclusion.
When customer is making payment of any good being purchased, it's very easy to just transfer and immediately you get your money. But another thing is sometimes when the network is bad, there might be a delay in the transaction.
So once a customer buys a product, it takes a few minutes to confirm your alert before settling the customers. But the other way around, sometimes network can give issue.
Business expert and chairman, young CEO Abuja Chambers of Commerce and Industry says there have been some awareness from different people about cashless system over handling of cash.
People go to complain to the service providers, and so, they quickly address the situation. Like I said earlier on, these are teething problems as we improve on our infrastructure, as the banks also improve on their own internal systems. People are going to see more efficient transactions, in electronic payment system.
Experts say moving from a society where 90% of cash is held outside of the banks to a cashless society is a big change.
And with that, we wrap up with this edition of Business Africa. Thank you for watching. For more captivating business stories and news, stay tuned to Africanews and Africanews.com.